10 weeks ago, if you'd asked me what an eval was, I'd given you a confident, hand-wavy answer. Unit tests, but for AI. And technically, I already had some. They sat in my projects, generated by an LLM. I'd glanced at them, seen them mostly passing, and felt great about it. I never wrote them myself. I never really understood them. I just liked the green. Here's the situation. 13 years writing frontends, senior then staff frontend engineer. Thousands of Jest tests shipped, a wall of green checkmarks in my comfort zone. I'd been an advanced AI user for a while too, but using AI and building AI turned out to be two different jobs with two different vocabularies. Then I got moved to the AI team. And we don't have some polished AI department, we are a bunch of engineers and a PM who got thrown together to build an AI product. My first task was writing guardrails for a language model on a repo I'd inherited that already had evals in it. Evals I couldn't fully explain. My title, by the way, still said frontend. Nobody changed that. The word kept surfacing in stand-ups, in pull requests, and every time I felt this quiet anxiety that I didn't actually grasp it, so I went and learned it properly. Real code, real money on the line. I tried two tools. Both are good. One a simple local runner, the other a broader platform we'll probably end up using at work. Let me show you both, from zero, and how they stack up against the Jest tests I already knew. The first time I ever saw the word eval was in an article from Anthropic, their guide on writing skills for Claude. There's a whole section in there about evaluating how your skill actually performs. I read it, decided it looked boring, and skipped straight past it. My skill creation flow was simpler than theirs. I'd figure something out with Claude, then tell it to turn that into a skill, so next time it already knew how to do the thing, and ship it. The part where you measure whether the skill is any good, I never touched it. The evals I did have, the LLM generated ones sitting in my projects, got the same treatment. The scores hovered somewhere in the 90s. 94, 96, sometimes 100, never quite the same twice. I saw green, I felt good, and I moved on. It never once occurred to me to ask why a test would give me a different number every single time I ran it. And that question, why isn't this just pass or fail, turns out to be the entire point of this video. So let me actually answer that question. An eval has two halves. The cases you run and the scorers that grade the output. The cases are the easy part, an input and some context, exactly like a Jest test. The scorers are where it gets interesting because there are two completely different kinds, and the gap between them is the thing nobody had explained to me. The first kind is just code, a plain JavaScript function. A demo agent here is a simplified version of this channel's mascot, a catbot meant to answer in character and end its messages with a cat emoji. So one scorer literally checks, does the reply end with a cat emoji? That's a one-line regex. It runs instantly, costs nothing to compute, and it's completely objective. The emoji is there, or it isn't. There's more to grade than the reply text though. A lot of real agents call tools, they hit an API, look something up, write a record. So another check looks at the tool call itself. Given this input, did the agent reach for the right tool with the right parameters? You compare the actual call against the one you expected, which makes it deterministic, the same as the regex. My demo cat bot only talks, so this one stays off screen, but in real work, it's often where the bugs hide. A failing check like that just shows the model used the tool the wrong way. Figuring out the fix is on you. Maybe the prompt needs a nudge, maybe you reach for a smarter model. The second kind of scorer is where your Jest instincts fall apart. How do you check whether a reply is actually charming? In character? Genuinely helpful? You can't write a regex for charming, there is no string match for personality. So instead, you hand the reply to a second language model and ask it to score it 0 to 1 with a reason. An LLM grading another LLM's work. That's called an LLM judge, and it's a completely standard technique. I didn't make it up. There's research showing these judges agree with humans about as often as humans agree with each other. And this is the part that reframed everything for me. A Jest test is green or red. It passed or it didn't. An LLM judge hands you 0.85, then 0.9, then 0.7 on a bad day for the exact same input. It's fuzzy. That is why my old scores drifted around the 90s and never settled. They were never going to settle. One aside, because people always ask, why not just use Claude or ChatGPT for this? A chat subscription is a product and it can't make programmatic API calls. You need a pay-per-token key for that. I'm on Grok from XAI because it's cheap and fast, and the judge is deliberately a different model than the one being tested. The judge never even sees which model wrote the answer it's scoring, but models still lean toward the text in their own style, so handing the scoring to a separate model gives you a cleaner read. So, even the free code scorers aren't really free. Every case has still to call the model you're testing at least once. These tests bill you per run. Jest never did. The demo chatbot is the toy version. The real reason I went down this path was a more serious project I'd been building, and I'll keep the specifics deliberately vague. Picture a couple of eval suites handwritten in TypeScript, no framework. One checks guardrails, is a given input safe or unsafe. Another runs the agent end-to-end and scores the result several times per case and majority voted, because these things aren't deterministic. Every run writes a timestamped report and compares itself against the saved baseline, so I can see what moved. Then I got a little carried away. I wired the whole thing into a cron job on my Hermes agent. It fires only when relevant files change. It reruns the evals, compares them to the previous report, and posts an LLM written summary. What went up, what went down, which changes probably caused it. And it works. I was genuinely proud of it. It's also primitive. No charts and no history I can scroll back through. And there's no way to take a prompt, change one line and A/B it against the old version to see whether the scores actually moved. I'm squinting at numbers in chat messages and guessing what they mean. There's a more practical problem too, that Hermes agent runs on my personal gaming handheld, sitting on my desk, fine for a hobby experiment and exactly the kind of setup that gets locked down sooner or later, rightly so. I wanted something sustainable, something I could self-host properly, maybe even in the cloud. So here's the mental model I landed on. An eval system has 3 layers. You run and score the cases, you store the history, and you show it on a dashboard. My scrappy setup nailed the first 2. The third one I'd skipped entirely. The obvious place to start for a TypeScript person like me is a tool called Evalite. It's from Matt Pocock. In a recent video I reviewed the codex variation of one of his skills, Grill Me with Codex, and Evalite is built directly on top of Vitest. The pitch is basically Vitest for LLMs, and that pitch is the whole reason I reached for it first. I already think in Vitest. It runs completely locally. You write a file ending in .evals.ts, run pnpm eval, and it opens a small web UI in your browser while it runs your cases in the background. No cloud, no account, and the only API key you need is the model calls themselves. The demo repo, fittingly, I had Claude generate for me. One prompt to scaffold it with a few rounds of refinement. For the demo I split the chatbot into 2 suites. One is the team-facing version, full persona, cat puns, the emoji. The other is the outsider version where the bot dials the personality down and behaves like a polite professional assistant. One agent underneath, 2 different sets of expectations. And this is the detail to hold on for later. The agent, its test cases, and its scorers live in 3 shared files, and both tools import them unchanged. So when the 2 tools show me different things, that difference is coming from the tool itself. The data underneath never moved. It's the same code seen through 2 different lenses. I run it, and within a few seconds the web UI fills in. The deterministic scorers snap to green instantly, the emoji is there, the length is fine, no stray markdown. The judge scores take a little longer and come back fuzzy, high 80s, low 90s, with one case sitting well below the rest. That spread isn't a bug. That spread is the whole reason the next tool exists. Quick intermission, then I'll show the tool that actually fixed my dashboard problem. If any of this is landing, subscribing genuinely helps. I'm figuring this out in public and it's nicer not to do it alone. If you've got thoughts on evals or on whether a chatbot really needs a personality, the Discord link is in the description. And I just set up a Buy Me a Coffee also down there for anyone who wants to chip in toward the API bills these evals keep running up. No pressure either way. Now the second tool, the one I'd actually deploy. First, the wall I hit with Evalite, and to be fair to it, it's a softer wall than I first assumed. Evalite keeps history, it writes every run to an SQL database. By default, the database lives inside node modules, which is disposable, but relocating it somewhere permanent is a single line of config, and you can export runs out to HTML whenever you want. So storage was never really the problem. The real limit is the UI. It shows you one run at a time. There is a trend line, sure, but I can open the last week and today side by side and walk through, case by case, what actually changed. That kind of multi-run comparison is a different category of tool. For me, that tool was Langfuse. First thing to clean up in the name because it caught me out too. Langfuse has nothing to do with LangChain. Different company, independent project, MIT license, over 29,000 GitHub stars. And earlier this year it was acquired by ClickHouse, so it's not a weekend project about to vanish. You can self-host the whole thing, which is the part that mattered to me. My data stays on my own infrastructure and it moves off the gaming handheld onto a real server. Free needs an asterisk though. The software costs nothing to license, the box you run it on does not. Langfuse v3 wants a fixed floor of resources whether you are pushing 1,000 traces a day or none, and when I priced a single always-on VM on Google Cloud, it came out around $300 a month before backups. That only makes sense for real work, where keeping the data on your own infrastructure is the whole reason you're doing this. And there's almost certainly a leaner way to host it than one big machine that never sleeps. I just haven't worked my out yet. Here's the piece that made the architecture click. Langfuse runs two core databases. Postgres holds the relational facts, projects, datasets, users. ClickHouse is a columnar analytics engine built to answer questions like average the score across 1,000 runs fast, without grinding through every row one by one. That second database is the entire reason Langfuse can show me a trend over time when Evalite can't. And then the moment that justified the whole detour. I have one run where I deliberately sabotaged the cat bot, swapped its rich persona for a bland "you're a helpful assistant." The deterministic scorers barely flinch, the reply is still short and clean, but the in-character judge score falls off a cliff, from around 0.92 on a good run down to about 0.12. On a single run you might shrug it off. On the trend chart, it's a drop you can see from across the room. A single score can lie to you, a trend is much harder to fool. And evals are just one corner of what Langfuse does. There's live production tracing, prompt management, and from what I've read, judges it can run on the server for you. That's the whole video of its own, and I'll make it. For today is the layer my scrappy setup was missing. So, which one do I actually use in production? Right now, neither. I set both of these up to learn them, and I'm still early in that. But I've formed a clear opinion, so here's the recommendation I'd give a teammate. If you just want to get into evals and see something working today, Evalite is the right starting point. Local, fast, an afternoon to set up, and it speaks Vitest. For work, I'll most likely go with Langfuse because it brings far more than evals to the table. Dynamic prompts for one, versioning and updating prompts without shipping new code is something my team would use on day one, evals or not. So, Evalite to learn the concept, Langfuse to build a product around. Two I deliberately skipped so you're not left wondering. Brain Trust is the polished commercial option, by all accounts the nicest dashboards of the bunch, though I haven't run it myself, but by default your data lives in their cloud and that ruled it out for me. and OpenAI's own Evals product is being deprecated. It goes read-only at the end of October and shuts down for good a month later, so I wouldn't build anything new on it. If you take one thing from all this, take the reframe that cost me a few weeks of confusion. An eval is not a Jest test. The number it hands you is fuzzy and a little untrustworthy, and the only way to read something fuzzy is to watch it move over time. Which is a long way of saying stop trusting any single number. My cat has judged me every morning for over 7 years, and only the long-term average is accurate.